ESG, real or marketing?
It's a complete fraud.
Complete fraud.
It's so ridiculous. It's a joke. It's jargon.
ESG is kind of today being sold as all things to all people. It's becoming a placebo, a deadly distraction, because we're putting all our effort into this and we're ignoring what the experts are telling us.
Is it really the solution to our economic and social problems, or is it just a trendy marketing tool? Oh great, another boring lecture on environmental, social, and corporate governance. Just what I was hoping for. But seriously, I guess it is an important topic that will have a huge impact on the future of capitalism and the economy. So I'll make sure to keep you watching this video, because who doesn't love a good controversy? So it looks like it's not just about making money anymore for businesses. Now we have to make sure we're also making a positive impact on society. Wow, how times have changed. I mean, there was a time when businesses were just focused on making as much profit as possible, no matter the cost. But now we have to worry about pleasing customers, employees, and shareholders. Oh, and we also have to take a stance on social and political issues, because staying silent is not an option. Because apparently, if we don't, we'll lose customers and employees and won't be able to get investment money. Sounds like a real breeze. But wait a minute, is this just another marketing narrative from a political agenda, or is it actually true? This is kind of like what happened with FTX in the crypto market before it crashed. One good thing that came out of FTX's downfall is that it showed flaws in environmental, social, and governance ratings. Virtue signaling can actually hurt shareholder value, and in the case of FTX, it was just a facade for shady business practices. FTX's bankruptcy highlighted the limitations of ESG ratings. We shouldn't be alarmed by the system's weaknesses and see it as a chance for more honest directors to make a difference in the market. FTX had a bunch of problems, like a disorganized board of directors, alleged transfer of customer funds to a crypto hedge fund for risky transactions, inadequate cash management procedures, and unaudited financials. Oh, and the company's CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, seemed to prioritize social and environmental activism. The FTX Foundation, FTX's charity arm, claimed to be dedicated to climate change, animal welfare, and pandemic prevention. It set up the Future Fund to give grants to nonprofit organizations and individuals and invested in companies with a positive social impact. The FTX Foundation had a three-pronged approach to solving global problems, with a focus on climate change, animal rights, and pandemic prevention. But here's the thing. Boards of directors are supposed to work in the best interest of shareholders, which means making as much money as possible, regardless of the company's goodness. Using things like ESG factors can be helpful for a company in some ways, but it can also backfire if it's not done right. FTX's adoption of effective altruism has been met with some skepticism. Critics say the company was using the term as a marketing tactic, or greenwashing, to deceive investors and consumers about the non-monetary effects of certain investment products. Even Sam Bankman-Fried admitted in an interview with Vox that ESG has been perverted beyond recognition, and complained that regulators just hinder business without helping customers. So, the multi-million-dollar question is how FTX's bankruptcy will affect the wider cryptocurrency market. One thing is for sure, it has caused major damage to virtue signaling and called the validity of ESG into question. FTX's collapse further reveals the cracks in ESG. Effective altruism and socially responsible investing are failing to meet the standards of ensuring financial returns and doing good. It's time to reassess these practices and come up with a new system that works. More about ESG? Can't we just focus on making money and forget all about this complex and controversial stuff? I mean, one of the main problems with ESG is that it's often used as a way for companies to pretend they're doing good when really, they're just trying to improve their image. It's tough for investors to know which companies are actually committed to sustainable and responsible practices and which are just pretending. Another issue is that there's no standardized framework for measuring and reporting ESG performance. Different companies use different metrics and methodologies, which makes it hard to compare them. This lack of standardization can make it tough for investors and other stakeholders to assess a company's ESG performance, which limits the effectiveness of the whole ESG framework. There are some efforts underway to create more standardized frameworks, but until they're widely adopted, this will continue to be a problem. Oh, and let's not forget that implementing strong ESG practices often requires significant upfront investments, which can impact a company's short-term financial performance. Plus, it can be time-consuming and costly for companies to measure and report on their ESG performance, especially for small businesses. These challenges can be overcome with robust systems and processes, but it's still a hassle. Even though a lot of big companies are jumping on the ESG bandwagon, there's growing evidence that ESG investing may have negative consequences for the economy. A study by the Universities of Chicago and Stanford found that companies that score poorly on ESG metrics tend to underperform in the stock market. The study, which was published in the Journal of Financial Economics, looked at the stock performance of 3,000 publicly traded companies over 15 years. It found that companies with poor ESG scores had a significantly lower return on equity, ROE, compared to companies with strong ESG scores. The study also found that companies with poor ESG scores were more likely to engage in value-destroying activities like mergers and acquisitions and to have higher levels of debt. The researchers concluded that ESG investing may have negative consequences for economic efficiency and growth. Another study by the University of California, Berkeley, and the University of British Columbia found that ESG investing may lead to a race to the bottom in corporate governance. The study, which was published in the Journal of Management Science, analyzed the impact of ESG investing on the governance of public companies. It found that, in general, companies that score poorly on ESG metrics tend to have poor governance. Specifically, the study found that companies with poor ESG scores are more likely to have a higher proportion of independent directors on their boards and a lower proportion of women on their boards. The researchers reached the same conclusion as the previous study. ESG investing may lead to a race to the bottom in corporate governance. So, as you can see, there are plenty of problems with ESG. It's often used just as a marketing tool. There's a lack of standardization, and it can be costly and time-consuming for companies. A third study by professors at the University of Minnesota and the University of Colorado found that ESG investing may have negative consequences for economic growth. The study, which was published in the journal Economics Letter, analyzed the impact of ESG investing on economic growth in a sample of countries. It found that, in general, countries with higher ESG scores tend to have lower rates of economic growth. Specifically, the study found that countries with higher ESG scores are more likely to have higher levels of regulation, which can stifle economic growth. The researchers concluded that ESG investing may have negative consequences for economic growth. Oh great, now we're talking about how ESG can be a problem for developing countries. Just what I was hoping for. I mean, it's great that foreign investors are taking environmental, social, and governance issues into account when making investment decisions. That will help with sustainable development. Wait, what's that? It might not be as helpful as it seems? Shocking. Apparently, many ESG strategies focus on the reputation of their fund and rely a lot on data. This can turn investors away from developing countries, which often have weaker institutions and less reliable data. Investors want to invest more responsibly, which could mean avoiding risky investments and instead investing in social ventures or boosting countries' economic growth to achieve the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. This investment strategy has already been adopted in a few sectors, like public health and sustainable agriculture. Some big investment firms, like BlackRock and KKR, have set up impact funds, but these only make up 2% of global assets under management. Another option is blended finance, where government or multilateral institutions provide part of the investment and try to get private companies to invest as well. The question is if incorporating ESG criteria into blended finance operations can attract more private investment. Wow, what a wild ride this ESG discussion has been. But seriously, we all want a more sustainable future and for companies to consider their social and environmental impact, right? It's just that the ESG thing needs to be clearly defined or it'll just be used as a weapon against the free market and fair opportunities for everyone. Even though big companies are all about ESG these days, there are plenty of influential people who disagree and think it needs to be radically reformed or done away with altogether. Names like Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, and Tariq Fancy are just a few of the big shots in this anti-ESG club. If you're curious about what they think, you can find the links in the description. Thanks for watching and sharing your thoughts on ESG with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help our channel and community grow. Bye!